I'm Kathryn Crowley, and I'm speaking today with Verona McColl, who has written a great new book called Spell 30. Verona, I really enjoyed the book, and I think it will sit really well alongside the Irish history curriculum. Can you tell me what inspired you to write this book and, why you had this great interest in bringing ancient Egypt to life for young readers?
That's easy, Catherine. I lived in Egypt for many years and I gravitated there because of my passion for ancient Egypt. And I started writing a blog post, and my readers were asking more and more questions. And I realized then that this would be a nice topic for children to read. I hadn't thought of it structurally, but I just thought it'd be a great way for kids to learn about ancient Egypt real time instead of like a lecture. If I went back in time and it was actually there, and when I lived there, I always felt like I was back in time. So that's where it all started.
Yeah, great. And it's a really exciting adventure. An Australian boy and a Bedouin girl, like it's a fantastic premise. Um, can you tell me how you balanced the whole nature of kind of fact and fiction? Because obviously what teachers will want to do is to use it as a resource for talking about life in ancient Egypt.
Yeah, good question. It is historically factual. I have kept to the facts, but probably most important is the timeline. The timeline is accurate, and that's important to me because it had to be right. But of course, Aaron being a demigod and using his name to sound like the Egyptian name Aaron and Aten. Um, this is all fiction. It all is set in the right time frame and the right characters at the period of time where they went back in history. And I was careful to keep his name written in hieroglyphics correctly, but that's where it ended. And I'm pretty sure you don't travel back in time during a sandstorm, but who knows?
Exactly. Who knows? And when you spoke about hieroglyphics there, my understanding is that you've created extra resources for teachers and for children that they can access alongside your book. You might talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'll quote Pippa. She's Australian, 12 years old, and read the book. And she said the hieroglyphics puzzles got her in straight away. So featured throughout the book is some of the chapters you have to decipher the name in hieroglyphics. And there's an index of hieroglyphics in the beginning of the book. And she started she did all the puzzles, and then she started deciphering her name and all her friends' names in hieroglyphics. So I really enjoyed that she took it away from the book and did something together with her friends with it. I thought that was really clever.
Very clever. So in the Irish history curriculum, then teachers focus on ancient civilizations, kind of from third to sixth, depending on what the school's own kind of history plan has agreed upon. Um, in particular, what kind of aspects would you see, say, if a teacher uses your book to either read together as a class novel, or whether he or she lets children off to read it on their own? What might they come back and focus on then when they're doing kind of specific classes or lessons on ancient Egypt?
Yeah, another good question. Um, because it's ancient history, ancient Egypt, it is all history. But the children discover it in a more subtle way. But they do delve into some tricky topics like slavery and social norms, and they discover the hierarchies. So they're all social aspects that would be relevant, and they have a lot of problem solving skills that they have to address. but mostly they also compare things that are the same as they are in a modern time, and how they've changed and how they're weird and not weird. And the aspect of the young girl being a Bedouin Muslim is another interesting factor, because she says, oh, well, I can't do that because I'm Muslim. So you learn about some of the cultural things in a more subtle way. It doesn't sound like lecturing, it doesn't sound like rules, and it certainly doesn't sound like a history book. It's they stumble on these facts, and it makes it more fun because it's just part of the adventure.
Absolutely. And of course, they'll come across the clothing and the housing and the burial practices and all of that. They're all kind of
Very much
inbuilt
so.
into your story. And yeah, for sure, critical thinking and problem solving, because the big problem, of course, is how they'll get home.
Well, as a writer, I keep throwing lots of problems at them that they have to solve. So they have to analyze the problems, they have to work out strategies, and they have to fail. They fail a lot of the times, and that's also critical thinking. And then they have to learn from their environment what they can use, because the ultimate goal is for them to get home. They don't want to stay in ancient Egypt, no matter how adventurous it is. So there is a lot of critical thinking and strategy, and there's a lot of family issues because they both miss their families, and because they're away from families, they open up about some of the family issues that young kids find hard to talk about. So yeah, there's a lot of personal critical thinking, outside of the box stuff going on.
That's really true. I hadn't even thought about that, because obviously Aaron's mother is very ill, and up to now he hasn't had a great, he hasn't had a particularly close relationship with his dad. So I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, and how the two youngsters are able to give each other support around that. Yeah, even though they've come from such different backgrounds. Yeah, great. How would you see your book then, Spell 30, contributing to maybe fostering a wider general love of reading, and especially, children, especially of this age group? Some of them may, but some of them may not typically gravitate to kind of historical novels and reading and books.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's still an adventure story. They go on this wild adventure, and they cross the river in handmade boats. Aaron gets caught up in a battle in an ancient Egyptian war with southern invaders. So they learn a lot about the weapons. So it's not just a history lesson, it's an adventure story too. And there's some of the adventure that isn't bad. They're having a good time as well. It's a big learning experience, and they meet Tutankhamun, and his stepmother Nefertiti. So it's all very glamorous and quite exciting. There's a lot of art in there, and the architecture, because that's another passion of mine. So it's not just history. There's a lot of other things going on as well.
Yeah, who better to meet in ancient Egypt than Tutankhamun? I'm not sure I'm saying his name right, but especially because he was so close in age to your
He's the
target
same age as the
group as
kids,
well.
exactly.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So thanks a million for talking to me today, Verona. I have the book here in front of me, and down at the bottom of the cover, it's saying Book One of the Aaron Thanas Action Adventure series. So before I leave you, you might tell me a little bit more about what you're
I'm
planning.
so glad you asked that, actually, because book 2 has only just been released, and it's a continuation because they're still trapped in Egypt. And Felix, he's 12, and in Canada, he said he's so pleased with the ending of book 2. And I'm just about to release in another month or so book 3, and they accidentally get thrust back into ancient Greece this time. And that's a whole nother learning experience, a whole nother culture and history lesson, if you like. And I do plan on taking them to ancient Egypt, ancient China and the ancient Khmer kingdom, because I spend so much time in Cambodia. I can't wait to write about that as well. So plenty of history
Wow.
and
Plenty of
coming along.
plenty of adventures to come. So thank you very much, Verona. Lovely to chat to you today.
Thank you very much.